So we're moving towards emancipation. The Civil War started, the fighting's begun, and then we have to ask, why are people fighting? Well, for the Confederacy, it is about their way of life. Here's a couple of quotes for you. Many Confederates were convinced that the defeat would enslave Southern whites. If we lose, a Mississippi private wrote in 1862, we would be slaves to the Yanks and our children would have the yoke of bondage thrown around their necks. Using the language of slavery in order to protect their institution of slavery. Another, this country without slave labor would be completely worthless, a Mississippi lieutenant wrote. We can only live and exist by the species of labor, hence I'm willing to fight to the last. There's this fear among the Confederacy, even the non-slaveholding white settlers, the ones that joined the military, the ones that were drafted in the military, that if the slavery system were to go away, that the white population would either become the enslaved population or the black population would rise up and slaughter them. So yes, you could be a non-slaveholding white person, still believe in the cause of the Confederacy, which was to promote slavery. Now, the Union soldiers are going to be mostly there to preserve the Union. Many of them are immigrants that are coming over, but eventually by the end of the war, they are also going to be rapidly emancipationists. When Fort Sumter falls in 1865 back to the Union, they're playing John Brown's Body, which was an abolitionist marching song, not the Star Spangled Banner. Self-emancipation is also going to be very important for the enslaved population in the South. They didn't passively wait for the Union military to come and get them. They left on their own. After the Second Confiscation Act was passed, the military finally had a directive on what to do with the escaped slave population. Essentially what the Second Confiscation Act says is that if the Southerners were going to claim that the slaves were nothing more than property, then the Union had the right to confiscate any property that was used against them in war, thus making it contraband. So the enslaved population came to the Union lines, they were referred to as contraband, using the logic of the Southern rebel states against them. Now, Lincoln is going to promote emancipation as a military need, and this is before the Emancipation Proclamation is actually issued. He can't immediately free the slaves. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that he's the president. He's bound by the Constitution. He's not a dictator. He is considering, first of all, the border states, right? He can't lose the border states. That's probably the right spelling. He can't lose the border states and still win the war, at least in his logic. And secondly, he's bound by the Constitution. And if he were to just immediately try to free the slaves, then the Supreme Court, the same Supreme Court that issued the Dred Scott decision in 1858 that said slaves are nothing more than property, would overturn that, because you can't deprive a person of their property without due process rights. So he's bound by the limitations of the constitutional government.